Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today for another pretty pink Posh video. I'm creating a graduation card today. I have a nephew who's promoting from middle to high school and his school colors are red and blue, so that's going to be the inspiration for my graduation cap, my congrats, and the fun little confetti that I'm going to die cut from the big celebration cupcake dies. So I have all of my supplies. I will actually die cut a panel from the Stitch Torn Rectangles dies, but I went ahead and die cut everything out. Here you can see I use the second largest of those rectangle dies, and you can see all of the red and blue. Honestly, it's actually quite patriotic. So maybe today's inspiration, you can replace the graduation cap with something more USA if you are American or any other red, white, and blue country. So I did die cut my graduation cap to be a shaker, and I did take the cap and cut it out of some acetate, but I have really thick acetate that doesn't like to be die cut, but I still run it through because it gives me an outline to cut. So I did go ahead and finish trimming that acetate. I am going to use some 1/8 inch double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to add that onto the very thin pieces of my graduation cap, just adding it around the mortarboard top, and then I'm going to go along the sides of the cap. I die cut the bottom of my cap a little thin. I probably could have moved the inside for the shaker window of the bottom part of the cap a little higher up, but I'm just going to use liquid adhesive to adhere my acetate down to the back of my frame. So I'm not going to worry too much about it, just getting the double-sided adhesive where I can on the back of the graduation cap, and then I will use my liquid adhesive just on the bottom. I don't usually like using liquid adhesive on acetate just because it takes a long time to dry, and also it can seep out. So I did try to use just a nice thin line. So if you didn't catch, I was kind of sad at myself because I meant to use the frame of my graduation cap to line up the glitter pieces that were cut out from when I created my shaker windows onto my background before gluing the acetate to the back, and I forgot. But I already had my adhesive on there and didn't want to risk ruining anything. So we're just going to use liquid adhesive and glue these two glittery pieces down and just do my best to get them lined up that fit nicely in the window. And because I'm using liquid glue, it just gives me that little bit of extra time, some wiggle room to make sure I get those glitter pieces lined up and it doesn't, look misaligned through the shaker window. I was a little too high the first time for the bottom part of my cap, so I'm just kind of sliding it in place again, thanks to that liquid glue, until I'm happy with how it will look as the back of my shaker. So now that that's ready, I'm going to grab some thicker foam adhesive. This is 3mm thick foam adhesive from scrapbook.com in the 1/8 inch strips, which will fit perfectly for my shaker, except for the very bottom, because like I said, it's a little on the thin side. So I just trimmed it in half, and I'm going to get that lined up on the bottom part of my cap. And I'm also going to make sure that the two pieces I have here are really squished together so none of my shaker pieces fall out of my cap. Once I have that in place, I can just use the regular 1/8 strip for the rest of my graduation cap. So I'll get that completely covered. I'm actually going to have two separate shaker windows. So I'm going to go up the sides of my cap and then also do the diamond shape of the top of my graduation cap. Once I have all of that in place, I'll go ahead and peel off all of the release paper because I don't want to have to peel it off when I have my shaker beads in there, because I've been known to spill them everywhere, and as shaker beads, they like to roll and they will be off my desk and onto the floor. So while I do have to kind of pick a few of the beads you'll see here off with my pokey tool to make sure that they are inside of the shaker window and not stuck to my adhesive, I just find that this is easier for me to make sure that I don't lose all of my shaker bits when I peel off the release paper from my adhesive. So I'll go ahead and get those little beads that got stuck to my foam adhesive back into the shaker window. And I'll go ahead and fast forward because you don't need to see me poking off each one of those little beads. But once I get them inside, I did add a little bit more to the top of my shaker. And I'll go ahead and just shake it and make sure everything is nice and flat and spread out. And then I will close up my shaker panel by adding the frame and acetate to the top of that foam adhesive. I did have to edit out my whole entire head covering the camera, so forgive the jump there, but I made sure that my foam adhesive was tucked in. You couldn't see too much of it. You could see a little bit thanks to that really thin piece, but overall I think it looks really good. I also die cut the little tassel. I cut it out of the blue cardstock that I used for the back of my graduation cap, and I did that so you could see the tassel when it's attached to the graduation cap. I was a little worried that if I did it in the glitter paper, it would be too much and you couldn't see the tassel like coming from the center of the cap. So I did die cut the tassel out of dark blue, but I did have the little kind of piece that keeps the tassel in place out of the glitter paper. And I also cut the actual tassel part out of glitter paper. And I'm just going to trim off that extra string and I will adhere that tassel on to the graduation cap. So really all that's going to be that dark blue is the string of my tassel, which again, I just wanted it to be a little different so I could see it better on the super shiny glittery blue cardstock. And with that, that will finish off my graduation cap. I will add a little bit of foam adhesive to the back of the tassel once I get to gluing it down onto my panel here. Next, I'm going to adhere these little fun kind of party wands. I think they're supposed to be fireworks, and then you can add them onto these little what I call party wands. So they're going to be perfect. Again, this is a 4th of July die set, but it also is a great party set because they make these fun little party wands. So I die cut them out of blue and red glitter cardstock, and I'm going to do the largest blue partnered with the smaller red and vice versa. And I did glue the bigger blue onto the red party wand stick thing, and then I popped up the red glitter paper to the center and then did the reverse for that second party wand. My sentiment is the hot foil congrats script, and I foiled it with some really fun kind of shimmery red foil, and I cut it out using the congrats shadow die. It fits perfectly around the hot foiled sentiment, and I'm going to work on the layer and just seeing how I think everything will look on this panel. I was going to add some confetti to this panel, but while I was playing with the layout, I decided to change my mind and I'll show you how I'm going to add the confetti after I'm done gluing all of these pieces to my stitched torn rectangle panel. So I'm adding my graduation cap to the top, and I just use some liquid adhesive to adhere that down because it's already pretty thick enough. And now I'm going to add in my little party celebration wands, and I'm going to have them cross over each other. So I have the blue wand going more to the right and the red one will be more to the left, and they'll cross over at the bottom. For my congrats sentiment, I'm going to add that right under those wands, and I'm going to add foam adhesive to adhere that down. But first I want to get my tassel stable. So I'm going to use that same 3mm foam like I did for the rest of my graduation cap and adhere that behind the tassel and onto the white cardstock, so that way I don't worry about my delicate tassel ripping. Now I'm going to start the layout of my card. I know I want the panel to be centered onto my card base, so I'm going to grab some thin foam adhesive. This is actually 1mm thick, and I'm going to cut 2 strips and add it to the back side of my panel. I'm making sure to leave a little bit of room around the 4 sides of this panel because I'm going to tuck in some of that fun confetti behind the stitched panel and have it kind of peek out from behind. I really like this kind of white on white look, but the confetti will break that up by peeking out from behind the stitch torn rectangle die. Once I have that panel in place, I'm going to pop up my congrats sentiment. I'm going to add a bunch of little foam squares and foam strips behind, so I'll go ahead and fast forward. Once I have all of my adhesive where I want it on the back side of my sentiment, I'll go ahead and peel off the release paper and get this onto the card. I'm going to angle it a bit as well and kind of follow the flow of the card and go ahead and place that onto my card. Now I'm going to take the little swirly confetti pieces and get those placed first. I went in a alternating red and blue pattern and mixing up the solid cardstock from the glitter cardstock. Once I had them in place, I used my tweezers and my glue to adhere all of those down. Now I'm going to repeat that same process, this time with all the star pieces, and I'm going to use a pickup tool to just pick up the stars and put them around the card. I tried to just be random with it, so it felt like confetti was being thrown, just to give it a really festive look. After all of those were in place, that finishes off my card. So here you can see my fun shaker card. I love the red and blue, and I also love the touch of the celebration shaker beads because they are white, silver, and gold. It just adds a little bit of different colored shine to the card. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!